1985, the Oxnard Redevelopment Agency faced a quandary. Because the city's history was agricultural, many prosperous farmers had built exquisite Victorian-era houses throughout the area. Unfortunately, as the years passed and the economic base diversified, the development that followed branded many of the houses for destruction. Recognizing that demolition was not always the answer, the agency explored ways to save the historic homes, while at the same time recapture the spirit and original character of the area. Many of those involved questioned, if our ancestors had combined quality with profit, couldn't we do the same today? Concurrent to this thinking was the revitalization of the downtown area, geared to provide the basis for high-quality urban living. The public and private sector were beginning to work together, committed to restoring the area's vitality. Many of the public agencies had agreed to act as the catalyst by which private interests could eventually assume responsibility and ownership. A study was done to determine if it would be possible to create a level of development in the downtown area that could not be accomplished by the private sector alone. It was important that whatever was done would result in long-term benefits to the citizens of Oxnard, rather than merely a few short-term returns. When the Heritage Square project was proposed, a development rooted in quality, it was perceived as a sound business investment for the downtown area, as well as providing a way to save many of those threatened architectural gems. In May of 1987, the Oxnard City Council approved the Heritage Square Master Plan, developed by Main Street Architects and Pacific Coast Land Design. The plan called for the removal of dilapidated structures on an entire downtown city block and replacing them with 11 turn-of-the-century homes, one church, a water tower, and a brick winery. All the structures were moved to the site from nearby locations around the city to a lushly landscaped Victorian setting. With plan in hand, the agency began to develop the financing, acquire the land, secure commitments from the owners of the historic structures, relocate existing occupants, and clear the site. When new underground utilities were installed, the agency began relocating the houses onto the 7th and B Streets single-block site. Restoration started immediately. Realizing that the success of the project rested on the unique public and private partnership, a high level of assistance was provided by the agency. In some cases, the investors were direct descendants of the original families. Construction would last for more than 2 years. The exteriors would be of museum quality, as would the site amenities. Because Heritage Square had to pay for itself, the interiors would be renovated to accommodate contemporary workplaces, preserving as much of the original material as was possible. No two structures were alike in their construction methods, detail, or character. The only common attribute was each had played a significant part in the formation of Oxnard's unique history. The biggest challenge before the Oxnard Redevelopment Agency was to establish and maintain a cooperative spirit among the 3 general contractors, 15 different subcontractors, and 7 private owners. Developing a realistic workflow schedule soon became an enormous, sometimes overwhelming task. Problems abounded between the many independent parties and firms, and they were all involved at different levels and in different contracts. Hammering home the view that Heritage Square was part of a very special momentum to restore Oxnard's proud past, the agency was eventually able to convince everyone involved that the project was more than just another place to generate a paycheck. And so, arguments slowly gave way to agreements. Cooperation and compromise began to take precedent. The project became as much an effort of the heart as it was of the head and hand. Although a monumental task for all concerned, it became a quest for the ultimate in historical authenticity for one of the owners, Mr. Gary Blum, the great-great-grandson of Justin Pettit. For years, Gary has devoted himself to the project, so that now his ancestors' home on the plaza has become the jewel in the Heritage Square crown. As the primary developer, the agency never lost sight of the project's economic footing. It was paramount that the private partners realize a profit. The heartstrings had to be attached to a firm business approach. Acknowledging this view, the owners were able to lease 70% of all available space prior to the grand opening. This was a sharp contrast from a few short years prior, when the agency was forced to invest $1 million in off-site improvements in order to attract a single developer to the downtown area. That investment paid off handsomely. Prior to the completion of Heritage Square, new construction began 1 block south for 94 residential units, part of the Casa Marina townhouse development. Here was solid evidence that the agency's redevelopment strategy was working. This developer had come forward without any investment on the part of the agency. Land acquisition costs for Heritage Square totaled $2 million. An additional $5.5 million in agency funds went to pay for the project's site improvements, renovation of the 3 agency-owned houses, erecting the water tower, and rebuilding the winery. Private investment costs topped more than $2.5 million. Total cost of Heritage Square? $10 million. When Heritage Square was officially opened on Thursday, October 24th, 1991, the tenants included a regional insurance company training facility, an eye surgeon, a pediatrician, an antique store, and a study center. Shortly thereafter, the Redevelopment Agency itself relocated to the square. They were followed by a landscape architect, an insurance agency, a photographer and writer, and a vocational rehabilitation counselor. Another owner is actively seeking a restaurant tenant. A converted church serves as a community center and museum known as Heritage Square Hall. Some of the many uses include weddings, plays, recitals, art exhibits, seminars, and lectures. As the keystone in the 9-block redevelopment area, Heritage Square has attracted a substantial amount of attention. Acting on the momentum, the agency is already acquiring additional property around Heritage Square. It wants to swiftly move into its next phase of downtown revitalization. Suggestions from the community for possible projects include the rebuilding of the old Oxnard Hotel, once the cornerstone of city life at the turn of the century. Focusing on another block that faces a busy traffic corridor, the agency sees this portion as a key drawing card for automobile and pedestrian traffic off the main thoroughfare. The vicinity plan is being combined with 2 other master plans, Plaza Park and Mita Street, to create a comprehensive blueprint in charting the future course of downtown Oxnard. The Heritage Square project caused many lessons to be learned. It is the first of its kind in terms of scope and complexity in Southern California. For years to come, it will be analyzed, praised, and even criticized. Nonetheless, it should be remembered that complicated problems were solved, that craftsmanship rallied to lead the charge, and modern-day pioneer spirit gave back to present and future residents another century of community pride. Where will the redevelopment of the city of Oxnard lead? Perhaps the answer is best expressed by John Ruskin, who long, long ago put pen to paper and said, "Therefore, when we build, let us believe that we build forever. Let it not be for present delight, nor for present use alone. Let it be such work as our descendants will thank us for. Stone on stone, that a time is to come when those stones will be held sacred because our hands touched them, and that they will say, as they look upon the labor and the wrought substance of them, Behold, this our parents did for us." Heritage Square, for today and tomorrow, a gift of yesterday's best.